So on Thursday, we finally got to hear from Ben Perrin. This is, of course, the Prime Minister's former legal advisor and is the fellow whose RCMP interview suggested that Ray Novak, who is the Prime Minister's current Chief of Staff, may have been aware of that payment that Nigel Wright made, the $90,000 payment to Mike Duffy. Mr. Perrin was on the stand on Thursday, and it was a long day under questioning by the Crown, but he told us two interesting things. First of all, was that the Prime Minister's view on Senate qualifications and constitutional issues was that as long as you own $4,000 worth of real property in a province, you are qualified constitutionally to represent it in the Senate. This is actually a position that Ben Perrin, who was, again, his legal advisor at the time, kind of suggested both at the time in emails that have now been produced in evidence and in court today that this was maybe not exactly how he and others would interpret the Constitution and the law of the land. But that was really more of a subplot, kind of an interesting head scratcher, like, why did the Prime Minister think that? It was in the afternoon where we found out that we finally got to hear Ben Perrin give his account of that now infamous conference call with Duffy's lawyer of the time, Janice Payne. This was the call that, according to Nigel Wright, it was him and Ben Perrin on the line with Janice Payne, and that he did mention the $90,000. Well, according to Ben Perrin, who testified under oath today, not only was Ray Novak, again, Prime Minister's current Chief of Staff, in the room at the time and heard this conversation, but he also was there during a pre-chat between the three of them, Novak, Wright, and Perrin, in which Mr. Wright said, Duffy will be paying the money back because it's coming out of my pocket. He was pretty clear on that, and he was pretty clear that when this came up in the telephone call, he turned and looked at Ray Novak, and there were facial expressions exchanged, and definitely seemed to be a moment that he would always recall. There wasn't one of these fuzzy, oh, I'm not sure what happened. This is kind of interesting. Well, this is actually very interesting, because not only does it put the Conservative campaign in a difficult position, since they've been averring pretty hard that Novak was nowhere near this conference call, or then that, he sort of dashed in and out but wasn't there for the actual substance. It also raises a contradiction with what Nigel Wright told the court earlier this week. I'm not actually sure how you handle a situation where you've got two witnesses, both former officials in the Prime Minister's office, both giving seemingly contradictory testimony and both under oath. That's, again, for the judge to decide, not for us, but I think it's also a problem for the Conservative campaign. So we'll see what happens on Friday.